Hello, friends, family, and fellow bookworms, welcome back. Today I'm ranking every single book that I read in August, in this past month, from best to worst. At the end of the video, I'll also talk about a few books that I'm currently reading at the moment, that I'm right in the middle of reading, as well as 2 books that I plan to read in this month of September. Starting up with my absolute favorite book that I read this month, and definitely one of the greatest books I've ever read, is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I actually did a review of this book, well, sort of a double review. I reviewed like 2 books at once in it, and you can watch that if you want more details on my thoughts on this. Just to make a long story short, I loved this book. The ending nearly made me weep. It was such a sad ending. This man called Victor Frankenstein tries to create a being that he hopes will worship him as a god, but things go terribly wrong. And Frankenstein immediately realizes his mistake. He devotes the rest of his life to hunting down this monster that he, in his folly, created, and tries to destroy this monster. He pursues it through the wastes of Antarctica. He goes hungry, he's freezing, he's starving, he's homeless, but he's determined to destroy his creation and to work to right that which was wrong. I love this book so much. Absolutely everyone should read it. It's just, like, I honestly don't have much to say. It was a fantastic book. It was such a great book. 10.5 out of 10, for sure. And I read a lot of great books this year. There weren't any books, not this year, this month. I read a lot of great books this month. There weren't any books that I really, there was, 1 or 2 books that I disliked. But overall, this past month, was a very positive reading month, which is great. Next book on this list is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. This is also the other book that I did in that review along with Frankenstein, so you can watch that if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on this book. This book is about a boy named Milo who thinks that everything is a waste of time. He doesn't see the point in doing school. He doesn't see the point in math. Doesn't see the point in spelling. Anything at all. He thinks everything is a waste of time. When he's in school, he longs to be out, and when he's out, he longs to be in. And when he desires to go to some place, he goes there, but then he wonders why he even bothered at all and wants to go back to that place where he originally came from. So Milo is very dissatisfied with his life. He's not satisfied with anything, doesn't have any hobbies, thinks everything is a waste of time, when a mysterious toll booth arrives in his room, and this toll booth brings him to a magical world where basically, by the end of the story, he learns not to waste time. This book is a bit like Alice in Wonderland, just in the style of the story and in the general feel of the story. It did remind me of Alice in Wonderland a lot. This book was so good. I think it can be enjoyed by both children and adults, and it's a warning against wasting time. Giving this book a 10 out of 10. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Very whimsical, very humorous read, with the message that you shouldn't waste time. This is technically a children's book, but I think it can be thoroughly enjoyed by adults as well, kind of like with The Hobbit. The Hobbit is a children's book, but people of all ages can enjoy it. And the greatest children's books are the ones that can not only be enjoyed by children, but also older people as well. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend this one. And I also read this really, really fascinating book by Michael Ward called The Narnia Code. I'm a huge fan of the Chronicles of Narnia series. They were the first books that got me interested into reading in the first place. I love the Chronicles of Narnia series. Huge fan of C.S. Lewis as well, and not just his Narnia books, but also his Space Trilogy. Everything that I've read by C.S. Lewis, I've absolutely loved, but especially Narnia. Narnia was a really big part of my younger years, and still is, really. I love Narnia so much. And I got recommended this book by someone, and they let me borrow it for a while. And this book is so fascinating because everyone who's read Narnia knows that C.S. Lewis was a Christian, and there are a lot of Christian themes in his book. Like Aslan is very much like Jesus. He's sort of an allegory for Jesus. How he died for Edmund, but then was resurrected. And you all know the Christian themes that C.S. Lewis put into his book. But it turns out there's a lot more than just Christian themes in there. Each of the Narnia books aligns with the themes of what ancient people believed the gods of all the planets to be. So, like, the theme of Venus is love, and the theme of Jupiter is joviality and joy. And there's a lot of stuff in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that correspond with this theme. Obviously, like, you probably can't think of it off the top of your head. I can't either. But when you read the book, it's not... Well, it is kind of in the story, in the plot, but it's not very obvious references, so you won't realize it when you think about the general story. But once you read it, there's all these little things sprinkled throughout the book that remind us of the theme of Jupiter. A lot of mentions of joviality, and then when, I can't remember, is it Peter or, I think it's Peter, when they first enter into Narnia, and he says, "By Jove," which Jove is actually another name for Jupiter, which is another clue. And, like, and then the Voyage of the Dawn Treader represents the sun, like dawn, and then the silver chair is the moon. It was a common belief that the moon causes dew at night. When you find the wet grass and the dew, it was believed back then that dew actually came from the moon, that water really came from the moon. And it was also believed that the moon causes lunacy, and that's where we got this whole idea of werewolves. And that's a theme that is very present in the Silver Chair. There's a lot of mentions of dampness, of wetness, of dew. You got Puddleglum, who lives in the marshes, and it's very wet there. And a lot of mentions of, like, lunacy as well. So, really interesting how each of the Narnia books sort of corresponds with the theme of what the ancient peoples believed about all the different planets at that time. And, like, you know, to them, the sun and the moon were considered planets as well. Really such a fascinating book. I highly recommend this to any person who's a fan of Narnia at all. Really, really fascinating, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to have to read Michael Ward's other book, Planet Narnia, where he goes more in depth about this whole concept. Really, really fascinating book. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend this. Like, everyone that's watching this right now, you should go on Amazon and order this book immediately. It's so fascinating. Highly recommend. The next book is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I wasn't actually planning on reading this book, but I've heard a lot about it, and when I saw it in the library, I couldn't resist picking it up and reading it. So this is a very interesting book. This was originally published in 1951, I believe, or it might have been 1952. I don't know, sometime in the early 1950s. And this book takes place way, way into the future, hundreds of years into the future. I think not quite 1,000 years, but for sure hundreds of years into the future. And it is in a dystopian world where firemen's job is not to quench fires, but to start fires. This dystopian government, hundreds of years from now, wants to destroy all knowledge forever, so they're trying to burn every book ever written. And it is firemen's job to actually burn these books. That is their job. This book had a lot of really deep and meaningful themes, and Ray Bradbury, the author, even predicted the invention of earphones a couple decades, I believe, before they were actually invented. And just the way this feels so much like something that could actually happen. Like, there's a lot of similarities to the 21st century, even though this book was published in the 1950s. And how well it represents our modern age is actually kind of scary. Now, I'm not saying I'm convinced this is going to happen hundreds of years from now. It probably won't. I'm just saying, if you read this book, it does kind of feel like something like that is possible in the future. Then one day, this fireman, Guy Montag, gets really curious about the books that he's burning. And so, one by one, he smuggles books into his house and actually reads them, and it changes his life. This book was so fantastic. I was cringing so much reading about all the burning of the books. There's, like, no copies of any Shakespeare left. There's only, like, 2 Bibles left in the world. Really, a very depressing read, but a very good one. I would definitely recommend this book, and I'm giving this one 10 out of 10 as well. Ray Bradbury's writing, his prose is just fantastic. The dialogue, fantastic. Characters, love them. And yeah, I recommend this book. If you haven't read this book already, then you definitely need to. I'm giving this one 10 out of 10 as well. I really enjoyed it. Then, Next on this list is All's Well That Ends Well by William Shakespeare. So, I read Hamlet last month, and that's my first Shakespeare play. Well, I read like part of another one of his plays a really long time ago, but back then I was way younger. I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I didn't really understand it at all. I think I got like maybe halfway through, and then I'm like, nope, I'm done. But I recently read Hamlet, and I really, really enjoyed that. Yes, it is difficult to understand at times, but definitely worth the read. And I can definitely see why Shakespeare is considered to be the greatest writer in the English language. Even though, like, in my opinion, the greatest writer in the English language is Tolkien, still I can understand why many people say that it's Shakespeare. But anyway, All's Well That Ends Well, this was another fantastic play of Shakespeare's. I loved it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I will say, definitely not as good as Hamlet. I wasn't as interested in the story and the characters as I was in Hamlet. It was more just the really poetic style of writing of Shakespeare's that I really love. And obviously, like, a lot of his stories are great as well. But personally, for me, I just wasn't that interested in the story or really any of the characters at all. But I loved Shakespeare's writing and his poetry, which, obviously, Shakespeare is the master of the English language. No surprise there. Still, I enjoyed it, and I'll give it 9 out of 10. The next book, I don't have a physical copy here, but it is A Ranger's Guide to Glippwood Forest by Andrew Peterson. Now, Andrew Peterson wrote another one of my favorite book series, that is the Wingfeather Saga. They're right here. This series of books right here. So Glippwood Forest is this place inside fantasy world that Andrew Peterson created in his Wingfeather Saga, and this just has, information about Glippwood Forest, all the creatures that live in it, and really, I loved this book really a lot. I loved it. I really like what it adds to the world of Skree, which is this fantasy world that the Wingfeather Saga takes place in. Really, really love this book. Really fascinating, and I love all the world building that it added to this world. I'm giving this one 9 out of 10 as well. The next book, I actually had really low expectations for, but I ended up really loving it, and it is Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins. So this is a prequel to The Hunger Games. This takes place 15 years before The Hunger Games trilogy, and we follow a popular character in that trilogy. His name is Haymitch. In The Hunger Games trilogy, he's a grown man. In this book, he's 16 years old. So where I land on The Hunger Games trilogy is basically, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I definitely didn't, like, the first Hunger Games book was pretty good. Second one, again, pretty good. Probably not as good as the first book, though. The last one was not great at all. I also didn't really enjoy the prequel that much. The other prequel about President Snow, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Didn't enjoy that one as much. It was very interesting, but still not a great book. So I'm not the biggest fan of the Hunger Games series. I definitely enjoy some of it, but not the biggest fan. And I was surprised by how much I love this book. This is easily my most favorite book out of all the Hunger Games book, out of the trilogy, out of the other prequel. I loved this book so much, and it had me in tears by the ending. I feel so bad for Haymitch. I really liked this book. There were only a couple things that I didn't like. For example, just the prose, the simplistic writing style, the way the characters speak. Just, like, all the dialogue wasn't exactly top tier. Susan Collins' writing, and the way she writes, her writing style, definitely is the low point of the series. I feel like if the writing style were better, I probably would have enjoyed the whole series better. But still, really, really, absolutely loved this book. And I love how they tied in Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven, into this book. Because that's, like, one of my favorite poems. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Read that poem if you haven't. It's fantastic. One of my favorite poems. I really love how that was tied into this book. And you'll understand what I'm talking about if you read it. But still, like, not top 10 favorite books of all time. Probably didn't even make it into the top 50 favorite books of all time of mine. But still, I did definitely enjoy it. And I'll give it 8 out of 10. Definitely a good book. Better than any other Hunger Games book. Next up is another book that I had low expectations for, but ended up really enjoying. Still not the best, though. It is The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. So, I have kind of mixed feelings on Brandon Sanderson. Some of his books I love, some of his books I'm kind of in the middle about, and others I just don't like at all. This book, I really actually surprisingly loved. I will say there was like a lot of sort of unnecessary fan service, if you will, in this book, just for Brandon Sanderson's fans, and I'm definitely not a fan of Brandon Sanderson, although I do enjoy some of his books. I was surprised by how much I loved this. Really enjoyed the story overall, really loved our main characters, and the ending, I love the ending as well. I love the main character, especially when we found out who he really was. No spoilers here, of course. Surprisingly, really enjoyed this. I'm giving this one 8 out of 10 as well. Probably not as good as the Stormlight Archive, but definitely better than a lot of those Mistborn books. Then, another Brandon Sanderson book is next on this list. The Lost Metal. This is the 7th book in the Mistborn saga. Now, I already did my previous video was a review of the Mistborn saga, so watch that if you want to hear sort of more detailed thoughts about this book. Overall, this book was good. The ending was definitely good, but again, the prose and dialogue was not great at all. The way this book felt when I read it, just kind of felt like a first draft, and I feel like Sanderson probably could have done with a bit more editing for this book. I have a hard time caring for any of the characters in the series. Still overall a great book. I enjoyed it overall, and I love the ending, so for that reason I'm giving it 7 out of 10. And then the next book on this list, I also don't have a physical copy because I actually listened to the audiobook, but it is Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Book 19, Hot Mess. So, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is definitely a very funny series, like, I enjoy it for the humor, but as far as literary value goes, and that basically sums up this book, enjoyed it, it was humorous, but doesn't really have any literary value. I don't know what I would give this. If I were to rank it, probably 6 out of 10, I would say. I think I actually did a review of Diary of a Wimpy Kid when I first started this channel. You can watch that if you're interested. But then the final book, lowest book on this list, is The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 6th book in the Mistborn saga. And this is definitely my least favorite Mistborn book. Again, like, I read this book this month, but it wasn't very memorable because I can't really remember much of it besides the ending. Well, and I can remember the beginning and the ending, but not a lot of the in-between. And as with The Lost Metal, this kind of felt more like a first or second draft of the book. And this is definitely my least favorite Mistborn book. Didn't enjoy it as much as all the other books. So those were all the books that I read in August, ranked from best to worst. Now I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of books that I'm currently reading. I'm reading a ton of books simultaneously at the moment, but I'm enjoying all of them a lot. The first of which is The Tempest by William Shakespeare. So far, I'm loving the story and the characters, and of course Shakespeare's writing, that's what he's known for, of course. Loving this. I'm on page 53, Act 2. The bookmark just slid out. I'm definitely way more interested in the story and the characters than All's Well That Ends Well. And still, I probably like Hamlet better than this. Of course, Hamlet, I think, is like one of Shakespeare's most famous works, so no surprise there. But still, I'm really enjoying The Tempest. Probably as good as Hamlet, if not even better. We'll see what I think about it when I finish it. I'm also currently reading Moby Dick by Herman Melville, slowly but surely making my way through this book. I'm on page 182, chapter 28. So far, I love this book. I've heard that, like, more towards the middle is when it starts to get really dry and boring. Goes into all these weird tangents about whaling and the whaling industry. But so far, like, I'm really loving this book. I think this might become another one of my most favorite books that I've ever read. It's definitely getting up there, and I've hit like one or two sort of strange tangents about whaling. This one chapter was just all about why whaling is a noble pursuit, and why, like, everyone seems to detest whalers, but really, whaling is a really noble thing. So, yeah, I did enjoy that chapter. Like, I enjoyed all the aspects on, like, whaling is a noble thing. It was basically saying, whaling is the most noble job out there. If you think wrong, then you're stupid. Not exactly, but see, the thing is, even though I do enjoy, like, the weird tangents that this book goes off into, I'll get really invested in the characters and in the story, and then I'll hit a tangent, and I'm really annoyed by it. But then I'll get really, really interested into what the tangent's talking about, and then I kind of feel annoyed when we go back to the story. So definitely overall, I'm enjoying this book. It's not really a book that you could speed read. It does take some time and some thought. I am aiming to finish it this month in September, but I'm not sure if that'll happen because it's pretty long and a pretty dense book as well. So it might take me a bit longer than 2 months to read it, but so far, I definitely am enjoying it. I also started rereading The Lord of the Rings. I'm only on to chapter 2 so far. I love The Lord of the Rings. It's like my most favorite book series ever, and really enjoying my reread of it. This is actually my 6th reread of it. That's how much I love it. I'm reading it for the 6th time, and I think I've listened to the audiobooks like 3 or 4 times. I don't even know. The audiobooks are so great as well, especially the Andy Serkis ones. But yeah, I'm on chapter 2 of rereading my way through The Lord of the Rings. Love The Lord of the Rings, and really enjoying my reread of it so far, with what little I've reread of it so far. I am also reading Watership Down by Richard Adams. I've had this recommended to me a lot. I am on page 142, what chapter is this? Right in the middle of chapter 20. This book is sort of like a mixture in between Redwall and the Green Ember series, and so far I'm loving it so much. I think, again, like, this might become another one of my most favorite books. I'm reading so many books that I love at the moment, which is great. I am enjoying this book so much. Loving the story, loving the characters, just the dialogue, the prose, the plot, everything about it I'm enjoying so much. And I do definitely want to do a book review of it when I finish this. This next one that I'm currently reading is another book that I've heard a lot about, and I've had my eye on this one for a long while, but for some reason just haven't ever bought it, and haven't read it yet. So when I saw it standing in a little free library, I couldn't resist. I just grabbed it and started reading it there on the spot. I read the first page, and immediately I'm like, this is going to be a great book, so I took it. It is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I'm only on chapter 3, page 34. So far, a great book. There's a lot of philosophy into it, and there's like not much action in this book. It's more centered sort of on the philosophy, just characters debating back and forth. And I went into this book knowing absolutely nothing about it at all, going off of nothing but the title. I haven't read any reviews, haven't even read the description on the back. I haven't read anything about what the general story is about, so I think that's definitely helping me enjoy this book. I'm loving this one so much. What else is there to say? And another book. I'm reading so many books simultaneously because I love them all so much. This is Morgoth's Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, Volume 10 in the History of Middle-earth series. Now, I've been reading this book for about 2 months now. I think I started it in late July, and I haven't made a ton of progress. I'm only on page 216. Again, fantastic. No surprise there. I've loved every Tolkien book that I've read so far. And again, the History of Middle-earth series isn't a series that you can really speed read. It's very interesting, and it's definitely only for like hardcore fans of Tolkien's works, which I am. Enjoying this book. But again, it does take time and thought and effort to put into reading through this entire thing. So it's taking me a little longer to read this book, but really enjoying it and savoring every moment of it. And after I finish this book, there's only 2 more volumes in the History of Middle-earth to go, which I've been reading this series for like probably about a year now. And it's just his History of Middle-earth series, so fantastic. Loving it. It does take a lot of time and effort, but I'm loving it so much. Those are all the books that I'm currently reading right now. Now I'm going to talk about, briefly if I can, 2 books that I want to read in this month, in September, if I manage to find the time. First of which is Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Once I finish The Tempest, I will definitely read this. And the other is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. Heard a lot about Sherlock Holmes, and I read like abridged versions of all the Sherlock Holmes books a while back. I remember I really, really loved those, so I do want to give the original a try. And again, this book isn't terribly long. It's only like 223 pages. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to reading this book. Hopefully I'll find the time, though. I figure all the books that I'm currently reading simultaneously are going to probably take up the majority of this month. So those are the 2 books I want to read, or start, maybe finish, probably finish. They're both fairly short. In this next month, the books that I'm currently reading, and the books that I read last month. Well, that's really all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and for now, farewell. Or as Edgar Allan Poe once said, quoth the raven, nevermore.